Hello guys, today let's read the story of Rama and the Squirrel. Rama, the prince of Ayodhya, had come to the seashore in search of his wife Sita. With him was a huge army of monkeys and bears. Sita had been kidnapped by Ravana, the 10-headed demon. He had taken her across the sea to his kingdom, Lanka. I must bring Sita back, Rama said to himself. But how will we cross the sea? Rama's brother Lakshmana stood by. With them was Sugriva, king of monkeys. They too wondered how to cross the sea. Squirrel, who stayed on a tree nearby, watched them. We must pray to Varuna, the god of the sea, said Sugriva. He will show us how to get across the water. Yes, agreed Lakshmana. That's a good idea. Rama looked up at the two of them and nodded. He sat facing the dark blue sea and prayed. Squirrel prayed too. She wanted Rama to bring Sita back as soon as possible. Rama prayed all night, but there was no sign of the sea god. Lakshmana felt angry. You should use your powers and dry up the water, he said. Squirrel trembled. What will happen if Rama dries up the sea? She wondered. The fish will not be able to breathe. Just then, a shining figure rose from the sea. It was Varuna. Greetings, Rama. I will help you to cross the sea. Nala, the great architect, is in your monkey army. Ask him to make a bridge and I will hold it in place. Rama was very pleased. Squirrel chirruped happily. Nala agreed to build the bridge. With what shall we build the bridge? Asked Sugriva. We will use the huge rocks that can be found here, said Nala. Call all the strong monkeys, Sugriva, said Lakshmana. Ask them to bring the biggest rocks they can find. Sugriva called loudly, Vana, Vana, Tana. Bring your friends and come here. Ask the bears to come too. Squirrel squeaked in delight as hundreds of monkeys and bears came rushing to help. As they worked, they sang loudly. Heave ho, lift the rocks and forward throw, a bridge we build over the sea for Rama's mighty army. See these rocks big and round, wrench them out from the ground. The bridge we build over the sea will carry a mighty army. Let the bridge be built quickly, said Rama, raising his hands to bless his friends. Lakshmana stood watching them work. Squirrel ran down the tree. She looked this way and that and scampered up the tree again. She saw large stones crash into the sea. The waves splashed up high, roaring and thundering. The monkeys' voices lifted over the roar of the sea. It was an amazing sight. Should we cut some trees and put them between the rocks? Asked a monkey. Squirrel was shocked. Cut the trees? That would be terrible. No, said Lakshmana. No tree must be harmed. My home is safe, squeaked Squirrel happily. But what am I doing sitting at home? This will not do. I have to help Rama. She raised her bushy tail and thought hard. I am too small to do anything, thought Squirrel, looking at her tiny paws. Then she straightened herself up. But help I must, she said loudly. I cannot carry rocks, but I can crack a nut. And if I can crack a nut, I can gather grains of sand. I'll sprinkle the sand between the stones to bind them together and make the bridge stronger. Squirrel came tumbling down the tree with joy. She landed right at Rama's feet and he smiled at her. She chirruped with delight. Scrambling to her feet, Squirrel made a dash towards the seashore. Skipping through the large tramping feet of so many monkeys, she reached the sandy edge. There, she bent down and filled her tiny mouth with sand. Then she darted to the bridge and sprinkled the sand between two stones. It fell through the gap and disappeared. A huge shadow loomed over her. "Out of my way, you tiny creature!" shouted a big monkey. "You will be squashed if you come here." Squirrel leapt out of the way. Scampering back to the tree, she muttered sadly, "It's no use, I can't help, I'm too small." Just then she heard a sigh. It was Rama. Squirrel looked at his sad and gentle face and forgot all about how sad she was. "I have to help Rama," she told herself. "I just have to." A monkey walked past Squirrel. His feet were wet and covered with sand. Squirrel drew a sharp breath. Her eyes sparkled. "I know what I can do," she squeaked excitedly. Rama looked at her and a smile lit up in his face. It was almost as if he knew what she was thinking. Squirrel did not waste another moment. She ran to the sea as a big wave came rolling in. Then she jumped into the water and soaked herself. Dripping wet, Squirrel shot back to the beach and rolled herself in the dry sand. The sand stuck to her wet fur as she looked like a little sand ball. Next, Squirrel went straight to the bridge and shook herself hard. A shower of sand fell from her body into the gaps between the stones. Squirrel ran down to the sea again, soaked herself, rolled in the sand and shook it out on the bridge. She bathed, rolled and shook without stopping till sundown. Soon it became dark. The work was over and the bridge was made. Nala walked slowly over the bridge for a final look. He bent down, surprised. "What's this?" he asked. "Who brought sand to bind the stones?" No one answered. No one had seen Squirrel working. No one except Rama. Rama turned and looked at Squirrel. She sat on the rocks, wet and bedraggled, her tired breath coming in gasps. "I can tell you," he smiled. "It was Squirrel." "Rama saw me. He knows what I did." Squirrel closed her tired eyes happily. Suddenly, she felt Rama's warm hands close over her. He picked her up and gently stroked her back. "You have all done a wonderful job," said Rama. "Every one of you." Then lifting Squirrel high up in his hand, he repeated, "Every one of you, big and small." The monkeys and bears leapt up in joy and repeated in a thunderous voice, "Every one of us, big and small." As for Squirrel, she felt too happy to even squeak. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video and leave a comment. Do not forget to click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon.